Hello and welcome to this Therapist in Conversation introduction to the lovely Jennifer, who's joined us a few months back, and she has been a fantastic addition to our lovely panel. So, welcome, Jennifer. So, would you like to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Sure. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed being on there with you guys, having wonderful conversations. So what I do, I am a registered psychotherapist, a Canadian certified counselor, an intuitive life coach. I do psychotherapeutic energy healing, and I bring in kind of I say Western psychology meets Eastern energy healing, right? So I kind of bring those two things together to really look at a holistic healing approach for clients.
Wow, that's a lot of different things. And I always thought I had a lot of things on my list. How do you bring them all together, or do you have them as quite standalone
A little
offerings?
bit of both. If somebody comes and they just want, straight psychotherapy, then that's what we do. If somebody comes in and they say, you know what, I'm really interested in the energy aspect of it, then maybe we'll bring in some Reiki or we'll bring in some energy healing. I'll do some energy medicine kind of work with them, brain gym, things like that, to really bring in the mind body experience. And so we'll do, I kind of meet the client where they're at, and what they're interested in incorporating is what we will bring into the sessions.
Okay. So what got you into psychotherapy in the first place?
Uh, it's always been an interest for me. I explain on my website that kind of connection with Nguyen and the wounded healer, right? We go through our lives, and I have my own background and history of healing. And part of, even going into my undergrad, which was like 20 plus years ago, I'll just date myself a little. I went into it because I wanted to understand my own process, and I wanted to be able to heal, and I wanted then to be able to use that to help other people. Right. And so, having grown up with, addiction in the family and anger management issues in the family and things like that, and some more serious mental health stuff, I had gotten to a place where, I went, okay, I'm questioning my own reality and my own judgment on things because of these other things that are happening, and being gaslit, or dealing with people in the family who have borderline where their realities are different and things like that. And I went, okay, I I need to be able to understand this for myself so that I can heal and I can begin to trust myself again. And in the process of doing that, it was like, okay, this deeper understanding is so important. And it's so important for people who are going through it and for family members who are experiencing that. And that is really what pushed me to want to go into this field, so that I can then take all of that learning and understanding and growth that I've been able to experience and share that with others.
So how then did the energy work come into play?
So yeah. Um, I've always felt things, seen things, been connected to energy. And as a child, that was pretty scary.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I went through a period of time where I kind of shut down to, a lot of that. But I was always drawn to the spiritual and seeking. And so um, I went through a period of time where that was done through religion and different paths in that way, and really studying all of the different backgrounds, and from there, kind of coming to a place of understanding the oneness of all, and that really impacts my practice. And so the energy piece and everything else kind of came in, again, as a self-healing. I wanted to do Reiki to be able to take care of myself and my kids, and things like that. And it just kind of became part of what my practice was as well, only because it's everywhere. You can't not have that. It's funny, I'll have clients come in and say, I felt something in the session. I'm like, yeah, it's the Reiki. It does what it wants. Um, yeah, so and it's funny too because, being in a regulated field, I was hesitant to bring in a lot of these different things for a while because, you know, the field doesn't always like some of the alternative stuff. But it's so needed. And the clients that I, have who have asked to have this as part of their sessions and things like that have all said, it's incredibly impactful to be able to incorporate all of that into the healing process. And so I haven't looked back.
So what was the process like for bringing it in initially? Because obviously you're saying there you're part of a regulated field. Were there hoops you had to jump through or things you had to check out first, or was it just a very gradual?
It was interesting. So for where I am in Canada, in Ontario specifically, the CRPO, which is the College for Registered Psychotherapists, um, that's my regulatory body. They actually went through a period of time where they tried to bring Reiki in as a regulated
Oh,
practice.
wow. Okay.
And so when that started to happen, it was like, okay, well, if that's what you guys are trying to do, which obviously like the entire Reiki world went crazy. But when they started to do that, it was then kind of an open door for me to say, well, I can use this if you guys think it's that valuable that you want to regulate it. Right. And so that was the way that the door opened. And then that never actually came to fruition, but it meant that now it was available. Right.
Yeah. It was already part of your process, so they couldn't exactly turn around to you and say, "We've changed our mind. Stop doing that now."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So when your clients are finding you, are they finding you based on both aspects, or are they predominantly coming to you for one or the other?
Um, in the beginning, I think it was predominantly for psychotherapy. And then as I kind of opened and put out there my website, so myholisticself.com or myholisticselfcounseling.com, if you go to it, reads very much like me. And it's evolved over time. And now there is a lot of components about the spiritual work and bringing in the energy and all of that. And so I think over time, even my client base has shifted, right, to go with that. And I do believe, the more we put out there who we are and who, how we are, the more people that resonate with that are going to come through.
Mm,
And so
mm.
I have seen that shift from being very strictly psychotherapeutic to really bringing in the energy stuff and all of that and clients who want that in their sessions.
Fantastic. One of the things a lot of us are told or told, however you want to put it, when we first start out with all these things, is you've got to niche down. Have you niched? And if so, with what niche?
Um, sort of. Uh,
I love that answer.
but from a psychotherapy perspective, I have not niched in the sense that I don't have a particular theory or a modality that I, um, kind of push as my main, way of being. Um, so in that sense, looking at it strictly from a psychotherapeutic perspective, like I'm not niched at all. And I don't even, say, okay, I only work with this kind of clientele, or I'm only doing trauma work, or I'm doing grief work, or I'm doing like I don't have that aspect to it. That is and and it's funny because then I say, well, on the spiritual side, I'm very eclectic as well, where I'll bring in any spiritual background, any religious background. I'm happy to talk to people wherever they're at with whatever belief system they hold. Um, and so in that sense, no, I'm not niched there either. And yet, being a psychotherapist who brings in the spiritual is a huge niche.
It's 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 that funny one where a lot of the marketing specialists tell you you've got to talk to the clients about the pain that they're in, and you've got to pick that one pain point and really press on it and focus on that one topic because nobody else will understand what you do if you can help everybody. So I'm sensing you've not had to go down that route and you have been able to keep it wide open to allow people to find you when they need you.
Yeah. And it is wide open. And it's interesting. Like I even put on my website, right? Like we can deal with these particular issues, or we can just work on self-growth, self-love, right? And so, I have clients who, we work through stuff and there's all of this healing and we're kind of putting out fires, right? For a while and dealing with basic kind of life stuff. But then they get to a place where it's like, I can handle this stuff, right? I
Give me
can
more.
I can work through my stuff. They'll come in and instead of, kind of going, okay, I need to process through this, they're telling me how they processed through it in the in between. And it's a beautiful kind of transition. And then they're like, okay, now I want to work on growth and deepening this, right? It's no longer about, we've moved from that survival place to this thriving place. And it's like, I just want more of that. And so it's a beautiful thing to be able to, you know, see that progression, and know that that comes from being different in the field,
Mm,
right? And really being able to help the clients that come to me because that's what resonates for them.
yeah. Are there any particular themes that you notice for the clients coming to you?
Um, yes, and it's interesting. So another aspect of what I do is human design.
Mm,
And so human design is very much about kind of our programming. So if you're into astrology and things like that, there is an aspect of that to it. But it's really about, you know, our design and how we're set up and what we're here to be and giving ourselves permission to be that. And part of the work with that is looking at the transits and where we're at any given moment. And it's phenomenal to see that people come to me with issues based on what the transits are. So if we're
fantastic.
dealing with an issue with, denial, or we're dealing with a shadow of, grief or whatever it is, that's generally the issues or the patterns that are happening during that time period with clients. And then as the transit
Wow.
shift, their issues shift, or at least their focus on the issues shift.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting to see, how impacted we actually are by all of that, and knowing that, okay, let's take a look at what's really going on right now. Okay, how do we now, move from the shadow aspect to the gift, right? How do
Mm,
we bring in that kind of enlightened state that goes with that? Now, these are Gene Keys phrases, like terminology, but really being able to, work with that and how it's showing up for the client in their personal experience.
yeah. Have you got any tips to allow people to twig when that's what their focus is coming from those transits and noticing these things? Is there anything that we can be looking out for to say, oh, that's maybe what's going on just now?
Yeah, it's interesting because there are certain times where we'll pick up something and we don't even realize we've picked it up, right? And now all of a sudden we're in this headspace and a day ago we weren't, right? And so one of the things that I work on with clients is really, becoming the observer,
Okay.
right? And the more that we can take that step back and, diffuse from the thoughts and the feelings, right? And be able to actually go, okay, I'm feeling this feeling, but this isn't who I am, right? This has just come in for a time. Can I observe it? Can
Hmm.
I allow space for it? And can I look at it and go, okay, what what is going on around this? And what can I gain from it? Right? So often we'll have, a sadness come in or something like that. And in that moment, we get so wrapped up in the feeling that we either, you know, fall down the well, as we say, right, into it, or we try to push it away or refuse that it's there, or, say, okay, no, I don't want this. I don't like this one. And then it perpetuates because we're not actually addressing it,
Yeah.
right? But if we could look at it and go, okay, instead of, I am sad, go, okay, there's sadness. This is interesting. Where is this coming from? What is its message? What is it trying to tell me? And being able to kind of take that step back and observe it and learn and grow from it, we can also begin to understand, like, okay, if you're familiar with, what's going on in the transits and things like that, which every Monday when Tanis and I do our Twillo talk, I'll talk about the transits so that people know kind of where we're at and what the energies look like. And inevitably people are like, yep, that's exactly what I've been feeling this week. um, but the more aware we are of that, the more we can go, okay, this is collective energy, right? This is something that's happening across the board. I'm being impacted by it, and that's okay, right? Because there's a message here for me. But I don't have to take that on and say, okay, this is who I am,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm able to really separate that and get the message and then move on from it, right? And grow from it, which
Yeah.
ultimately is what we want.
Yeah. It's being able to take that step back and having a look to see what is going on rather than getting so sucked into it that you can't see beyond the edge. Yeah.
Well, and that's it, right? The more we identify with these thoughts or these feelings that come in, the more they just become what we are, because we are creative beings and we create our reality, right? And we're phenomenally good at doing that, even when it is not in our best interest.
It's mine and I'm having it. Don't take it off me.
Yeah. And so we have these experiences and then we go, okay, like, I'll have somebody come in and be like, I was, really struggling with this week. And then on, Wednesday or whatever, there was kind of a shift and then it was lighter. I'm like, yeah, it's when the transit shifted. Right. So we do see it. And it's so interesting to see how often we take on things that aren't ours.
Yeah.
And from an energy perspective too, I talk to clients about, have you ever noticed where you're great and then all of a sudden, somebody gets home and your energy shifts, or you're in a store and you walk down an aisle and you suddenly feel different than you did the previous aisle. Like, what is that, right? We're not so fickle in how we feel. We're often picking up the energies of the people around us, and we don't even realize that we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and when you actually stop to think about that and notice when it's happening, it's amazing how often it does happen.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though, I get on the flip side of it, I've got a lot of clients say to me, I don't really want to go into this in too much detail because I don't want to affect you. And I keep having to remind my clients, but it's not my stuff. So it's not going to affect me because as soon as I close my folder and you leave my space, our connection has been severed and I've not taken on your stuff. Hopefully your stuff is lighter, but it's not for me to take on. I would assume you've got a similar process that you don't take on your client's stuff either.
Yes. And that's a lot of my own self-care, right? And I think that in the helping industry, we have all of these tools, and it's so important that we use them ourselves. Right. And I know this that there are times where, I may carry something and go, wait a minute, why am I carrying this? This isn't mine. Right. And so then I'll use my tools to do my practice and go, okay, that's not mine. I'm not carrying it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm able to release that energy and everything. But I think that, we're all there, we're all human, we all have that experience. And so being able to, as a, professional, I have to make sure that I don't carry anything like from one session to another, or that I don't, so I have to do my work in the in between too, to make sure.
Yeah. Because the last thing you would want is to take it from one client and give it to the next. So we
Well,
do have
no.
to do that. We do have to do that separation work. We do, honestly, we do the work in between sessions.
Hmm.
You mentioned Twillo Talk. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah. So every Monday at 5 Eastern time, 5 p.m. Eastern. Tanis Coughlin from Twillo Lifestyle, and I do a authentic spiritual conversation. And we do it live, which admittedly for me was a huge change and something I wasn't used to. But we've been doing it for, a while now, and I love it. And I love the people who are on every week with us and the conversations that we have. We generally pick a deck and we work through that deck. So different topics come from that. So we don't plan ahead or anything like that. It's authentic conversation in the sense that there's nothing prepped or planned. We just we'll get in and we'll pull a card, and that's what we talk about. And we've had guests on, like you have been on with us, and it's been wonderful. Yeah, and at the beginning of the show each week we talk about the energy. Right. So Tanis will talk a bit about what's going on, if we've had any solar flares or what's going on with the vibrations and everything and during that time period. And then I'll talk about the transits and kind of where we're at and what that looks like energy wise, things that we might be facing, patterns we might be seeing, and kind of how to just be aware of that in our own experience. And then we, like I said, pull the card, and that's off we go for an hour, just kind of chatting away and having, wonderful listeners who contribute via, messenger on different platforms. So Facebook, YouTube. Me not tech savvy. Uh, I love that Tanis can take care of all of that because I don't.
I'll not ask you all these. We'll put them in the description below, and when you get Tannis to send me the links.
Perfect. Yeah. And so it's a great way to kind of connect with people, to not feel alone in what you're going through. And it really does help us to recognize we're all going through these things, and we're all having similar experiences, even if they're, very uniquely our own. But that connection and that community is so important.
Mm. So, what else do you do with the Twillo lifestyle? So, I know Tanis talked a little bit about everything that was going on. It's been about a year since I think we did Tanis's intro. So, is there anything else changed? Anything new come up? Or just give
Um,
us a bit of an overview?
Yeah, well, I know that Tanis has a bunch of classes going on right now. She just started a new session for the Celtic Shamanic. So that's happening. There's Jackie's going to be doing a 200-hour yoga training with them. I know Tanis and I are working on a couple courses as well, and they've been in the works, and I know they're huge courses.
It's a bit of a watch this space. Are they coming this year, do we think?
Yeah, so I think, Tanis and I actually were just talking about, so there's one that's a spiritual light worker, warriorship kind of course. So there's a lot of people in the world who are called to deal with different things, and they don't know how. And so that's going to be a really powerful course, but it's going to be a long one, right? Because there's going to be a lot of work that we need to do with that. And so the goal is to hopefully start that this year and move from that. And then Tanis and I have been talking about me maybe bringing in a human design course to work with people to help them understand their human design and how to read it and how to follow it, how to read the transits and know what's going on. So
Fantastic. I
yeah,
think it was
so
about this time last year I fell down that rabbit hole for human design. So I'm very interested. But I've stopped myself from doing any courses, which most people will be very surprised to hear.
right, because you do courses and
Managed to stop myself. I have a little bit of restraint this time round.
okay, there you go.
So
There you
far, but
go.
now you tell me you're going to do a course.
Yeah, and I think the way that I want to do it is an integration between the human design and the gene keys.
Hmm.
So when we talk about like the human design has a world of information that it can offer to us about understanding, who we are and how we show up and really being able to embrace that. And then Gene Keys takes it even deeper. and allowing us to really understand our shadow work and the gifts that we are here for, and what that can look like in our experience, and the challenges that come with different programming partners and things like that in the. And anyway, I'm going to get into terminology and technical terms. I don't have time to define and all of that, but that'll all be in the course. And so that's a work in progress as well, but I'm hoping that that'll be a this year course also.
And that'll be coming through the Twillo platform. And so if anyone's looking for it, that's where to keep an eye on.
Yes, definitely.
So how do we get a hold of you? How do we reach out to you if we want to get a hold of you to do any of the wonderful work that you're doing, or even just have a chat?
Sure. So you can email me at jennifer@myholisticself.com. You can go to my website, again, myholisticself.com or myholisticselfcounseling.com. And there is a section there where you can reach out. And then, yeah, you can find me on Twillo. I think you have to go through Tanis, though. I've gotten emails from Tanis, so just come directly, and that works really well.
Fantastic. And is there anything that you've got in the works for 2024? Any big, great, what's it they call it? Big, hairy goals, I think they're sometimes known as. What have you got this year for yourself since we're in the first week in January as we're recording this?
Yeah, this is going to be a big year. It was there's quite a few things. So I um I want to start doing retreats
Hmm.
more, and I'm thinking I'm going to probably start looking into doing intensives with clients. So people who really want to um, have an intensive session and work through things, we can maybe do, half a day or day work. And that's a wonderful thing. I know we do intensives with EMDR and things like that, which is also a modality that I offer. And so we can bring in all different things in that intensive, right? So having, like I said, a half day or a full day where maybe we do, resourcing with EMDR, and then we do some energy work and clearing, and then maybe we do some reprocessing, right? And then, bringing in all of these different things depending on where somebody is at. And so,
A really intensive deep dive then.
yeah.
And for your retreats, are they going to be local to you? Are you going to do some online ones? Are you going to come to Scotland and do a retreat over here? I know a
That would
lovely retreat
be
centre if you want it.
awesome. That would be awesome. Yeah, I don't know how much travel I have in this year, but I would love to do that. And I know, Tanis and I have talked about bringing Twillo live to, a small tour in different areas. And I think, retreat wise, there will definitely be some virtual things that are going to be available. There's going to be some in-person stuff. So we're going to be doing retreats in, I'm hoping to have the yurt put up for this spring. So there'll be some retreats that'll happen with that. That'll be local. And yeah.
Watch this space. Excellent. Well, thank you again very much for coming to join us on Therapist in Conversation and for coming to chat today. Hopefully, we've learned lots about you, and everyone who's watching now knows you a little bit better than they did before. And we'll maybe aim to do another one of these maybe about 18 months' time and see how we get on. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I just look forward to everything that 2024 is going to have to bring.
Hopefully, it's going to be fantastic.